this shit up. Okay, let's get into this Jubilee video. So we got what is this? Which one was this one? This one, detransition versus trans. Woo! That's a tough one.
If you feel attacked by the opposite side.
Why? Transitioned.
Step forward if you agree with the prompt.
So these are all the people that transitioned from what they was. So I'm assuming this used to be a woman, this used to be a woman, this used to be a man, this used to be a man. All of these are people who were trans and then they detransitioned. So the question is, or the statement is, gender-related treatment should be banned for minors.
Gender-related treatment should be banned for minors. I repeat, gender-related treatment should be banned for minors.
Medical transition is no place for a child. I transition as an adult, and I have medical complications. I have mental health issues. Child cannot consent to a medical transition because kids want to eat ice cream every day. It doesn't mean that they should.
I kind of agree with you on that as well.
Facts. She get a Don DeMarco.
Well, because we have so many rules and regulations when it comes to tobacco or alcohol or any type of drugs. Driving a car, you can't even rent a motel until you're like 25. There's some specific things that we need to put into place that I think would help protect our children, because the minors themselves really don't know who they are until they become 25, 26 years old. Their minds aren't fully developed, and it kind of breaks my heart a little bit.
Exactly.
So I did transition as a minor. I was a teenager who had a lot of mental health issues and had been sexually exploited and hated my body. And it ended with me kind of finding spaces where that was twisted into, no, you're just a boy in the wrong body. And
guys, before we get into it, I just want to say that if you agree with or like any part of my commentary, please hit the like button and leave a comment down below. It's becoming very apparent that YouTube is not a fan of the conservative nature in which we speak about movies, video games, pop culture, and politics around here. And so if we can get our engagement right, when we go up to YouTube, we can swipe our race card without having to worry about it declining, okay? Let's get into it.
it ended with me having my first ever medical intervention, being a double mastectomy at 16 before any hormones.
Oh my God. What? Did you hear that? A double McMac and cheese and what?
At such a young age. In the past 6 months, I have watched my body fall apart and waste away in front of me. You know, I have constant joint pain. I've watched my muscle mass waste away. I've watched my vocal cords hurt. I don't know if I'll ever be able to carry a child. The evidence we have suggests that the best way to figure out...
Oh, so she was a woman trying to transition into a man. That's why her voice sound like that. I'm sorry.
To persist into adulthood is to let them grow up. Because a lot of these kids will grow out of it, and many of them will just grow up and end up being gay or gender nonconforming.
Yep.
Can the disagreeer step forward?
I mean, if we're going to be honest, every major medical organization supports gender-affirming care for trans youth. They say
absolutely
it's safe and it's life-saving. And there are numerous studies that back that up.
The study that backs it up for puberty blockers is the Dutch protocol, and the same scientists...
I have 10 studies that I can bring to you
The
right now.
same scientists that brought that up have since rolled it back and said it was never supposed to be applied the way it has. The American medical industry, we all know, is money hungry and has gone off the rails.
Exactly.
I do agree that there are definitely some doctors out there that may be taking advantage of trans people, and I'm sorry that you went through this. Truly, I really am sorry. But trans kids are valid, and it's not a decision that they're making.
Right.
It's healthcare.
I want to speak to that real quick. Like,
what was the argument there? She made no argument. She simply, all she said was, trans kids are valid. Yo, these people are truly sick, bro.
Came out 13 years ago when I was 14. And I knew, not that I was trans, but that I was a boy. I had to go through a lengthy process of therapy and seeing an endocrinologist and like go through different tests and exams to make sure that this was real to everyone else involved. Transitioning and being trans was just a process I went through to become who I always knew I was. It wasn't a like decision that I made. It was a life or death thing for me. And if I hadn't gotten on hormones and gotten surgery at 16, I don't know if I would be here.
As a father, I have 4 kids, and so, and also as a trans person, I think that knowing what it looked like for me as a child, and that experience of going through all of the turmoil and all of the trepidation around my gender identity, I would not put my children in that situation. And also, I don't think that surgeries should be allowed for minors. Like, when we look at the data and we look at the statistics and we look at the research, the vast majority of these surgeries are happening to adults. They're not minors. So let's start there, right? And then further than that, if we look at puberty blockers are reversible. So when it comes to children, when we talk about puberty blockers, that gives them a shot.
Yeah.
And it gives them autonomy over their bodies. It gives them a space that they can explore their expression. They can explore.
I want to say that I'll give him credit because he gave a middle ground there. He said that should absolutely be no surgeries for minors. And I agree with that. I don't agree that minors should be taking puberty blockers, but if coming to a common ground meant that, okay, you have to go through an extreme amount of therapy and whatnot to even get the puberty blockers in the first place, but we ban the surgeries outright for children, I think that I could be okay with that. Because at least if you have to go through an extensive amount of, like, say for instance, if I had a child that think he or she is trans or whatever the case may be, and at least if you have to go through an extensive amount of therapy, I have time to convince you and talk to my child about, listen, you may not be trans, you're just a child and you're growing up and you're uncomfortable and you're afraid about what life is going to be going forward. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I kind of agree with that.
Who they are without surgeries, without all of these other things that could have permanent effects.
Mm-hmm.
My kids were maybe 8 and 10 when I started my transition. And so I talked to them in kid terms. I told my son, I said, look, you know, your mom, dad wants to be a dad because that's how I feel. And my kids being so young, they understood it. They were like, okay, we're with it, you know? And so as they got older,
I don't believe that.
I would bring them into my world and get them to understand the things that maybe I was going through. But now that they're adults, they understand differences in people, not just trans people, but people in general.
So there is such thing as gender fluid. How
Yes.
do you know that this kid is not going to change their gender expression later on? We really actually don't have studies on children that are taken over long term, like over 10 years, 20 years. You've only been on testosterone 14 years. One of the oldest trans men, Buck Angel, he almost died from testosterone. You're saying right now it saved your life. You may still die from it. You don't know. You're still
Exactly.
You'll die for ideology, and a lot of people have died for an ideology.
It's not an
But
ideology.
we have
It
more
is.
people that are
It's
dying
an
because they're not
idea that you were
allowed
born
to
in the wrong
express
body.
themselves. Look at the suicide rate of trans masculine folks is at 55%. And one of the factors that could save their lives is support, right? And so if we have folks that are committing suicide because they're not allowed to transition, how do we fix that? If you're telling
You fix that by fixing the mental issue with them. You don't affirm them by, oh well, I think I'm a guy in a woman's body. Okay, well, let's go ahead and cut off pieces of your arm and give you a dick. Jason Holt says, preyed upon by profit seekers, broken for life. Puberty blockers block puberty, and if you do not finish at a set age, some things will not develop. Exactly. So this idea that puberty blockers are reversible is a lie. It's an absolute lie.
me the transition
the
for
first thing-
children or minors is something that shouldn't be done.
The first here, I am very sensitive to this subject, as I've been the person who has had to talk people off the ledge when it comes to suicidality. The discussion around how we talk about suicide is a very dangerous one in this community. You know, my parents were told, do you want a dead daughter or a living son? That's not an appropriate way to talk about that.
And I understand
Exactly.
that, but
And
it is our trans masculine youth
I understand
that
that.
are at the highest risk
I
of
understand that,
suicide.
and they deserve help. But we also need to have a responsible conversation that is not using suicide as a means to push them down a pipeline before they have that comprehensive care.
So I have a question.
Exactly.
I know you've been wanting to say
Yeah, no,
something.
because I have a big problem. Oh, yeah, no, so I'm not an interrupter. What I'm going to say is we insult children, our youth, so much by taking away their autonomy and their own agency over their own decisions and insulting that they know who they are. Like an adult knows.
A child? A child? Man, get out of here.
So they are more than they do. No one knows.
Why the fuck you lying? Why you always lying? Oh my God.
Who I am more than I do. Right. And it's always been that way. I've always known who I was. I've never felt like I was in the wrong body. I just had to adjust my body. And so I think taking away kids' agency and the right to their own body is, it's anti-human.
I have a question. Do you believe minors should be able to get tattoos or plastic surgery or consent to the list of other?
I
understand they are different things, but to what level do we, to what level do we give children bodily autonomy over everything they do? Because here's the thing, children need barriers in childhood development. You need barriers, and they need a safe way to push against those barriers. And I worry with the current medical system that instead of giving them a safe way to express themselves and push against barriers, we have taken some of those barriers away. And that is why you see more detransitioners, because those barriers have been lifted.
Yeah, they're not just doling out surgeries for children. That's not happening.
I had a letter from a therapist in a single visit at the gender clinic office.
And that was abuse from
first.
that therapist who did not psychoanalyze the rest of
be
your
not
issues.
right. And that shouldn't.
Because your issues weren't being trans. There were a lot of other issues that you're
I have a
addressing right
diagnosis
now.
of gender dysphoria as
And
well.
you shouldn't. You were misdiagnosed.
No, I haven't.
Right.
Yeah, you had to get a second opinion, honey.
And how was I supposed to do that when my parents were told
That's
that I
not
would
your
kill
fault.
myself?
But your parents,
Their biggest crime in all this was trusting in a medical system that they thought would help me, and professionals apparently not doing the right thing
I
here.
understand, but your parents were responsible for the decisions that were made on your behalf.
Hold up. So now we blaming the parents, but y'all are trying to take the parents' rights away. Hold on. So, hold on. So, as soon as I can get away from this goddamn bear that won't leave me the fuck alone. I just want to point out the hypocrisy. Yo, where is my essence, man? I just want to point out the hypocrisy. They just said, the girl, the man or the girl or whatever it is just said, we don't want to take away a child's agency. But then they just blamed her parents. They just blamed her parents for her being misdiagnosed.
Why the fuck you lying? Why you always lying? Oh my God.
Why the fuck you lying? Like this is, you can't make this shit up. You literally just said it's anti-human to take away a child's autonomy over their own body, but then you just turned around and blamed her parents for her being misdiagnosed as transgender. So which one is it? Which one is it? Is it the child's responsibility or is it the parents' responsibility? Am I tripping? That bear means business. Watch out. It's too late. That fucking bear destroyed me, bro. Like, I could not get away. Child's autonomy in real life don't work like that. Exactly. Don't let the bear fuck you for not getting a second. Exactly. So what? Because she said she got transitioned at what age? Was she supposed to go in there at 13 and say, I need a second opinion? I'm not sure. You cannot make this shit up, man.
This really highlights is the importance of you sharing your story, because what it shows is that you can't jump into these transitions, and you shouldn't listen to these doctors that push you to transition just because you're feeling a certain way.
Social media brainwashes teens to believe that they're trans.
I have to agree on that one. Like, there's this thing about it, right? Like, yeah, there's this.
Regicide says, and back then he's way 25, 30. I would have trusted a doctor at that time too. Exactly. They do everything they can to make moms terrified of kids killing themselves. Bingo.
This play that they have.
I don't think that it necessarily brainwashes children, but I think there are a lot of people who get into being queer or trans because it's trendy. And I know that's a really controversial statement to make as a trans person, but I've seen it, I've experienced it.
I do give you credit for being honest about that. I do give you credit for being honest about that. See, this is what I like about Jubilee. And shout out to Jubilee. I think Jubilee might be a little bit of woke, but like Jubilee puts aside their own beliefs and they let the people come and have these conversations. There's a reason why Jubilee has 8 million subscribers. So shout out to Jubilee. I really respect what y'all doing. I like y'all. Y'all might not like some of the things that I have to say because some of y'all might be liberal or whatever the case may be. But I really believe in what y'all do. And keep doing what y'all doing. You know what I'm saying? Find it, keep pushing those boundaries, keep letting the people. This is democracy. Jubilee is democracy. Now, perhaps maybe they might be cutting out certain points that are making one side look the other way. I hope not, but I like what they doing. All right. Sorry, I had to send that text. Let's get it.
And I also find that social media, especially apps like TikTok, give a lot of these kids so much misinformation and lead to people thinking they're trans when there are much deeper issues, and everyone just wants to belong and find an identity, especially when they're young. You know?
I think brainwash is such a
Oh, that was so important what he said right there. And I'm using the correct pronouns. I did not misgender him. But he said that so many people just want to belong. Oh my goodness. Let me tell y'all something. When I was in middle school, I was trying to be a gangster so bad. I was trying to be a gang. Y'all know how many fights I was in when I was in middle school? I was trying to be a gangster so bad, dog. My father was a drug dealer, and I was an ugly little brat. You know what I'm saying? So I wasn't getting no girls. I wasn't getting no girls. I was ugly, and I wasn't out like. I was one of those kids that was funny, but I'm only funny in a group in the right group of people, because like once you get put in a box in a black school, like I know white people are used to watching like movies where when you get bullied, at some point you eventually stand up to the bully and then the whole school is like chanting your name. That shit don't happen in nigga school. I'm sorry. Like if you try to stand up to a bully without your fist in a black school, people just gonna laugh. They just gonna laugh. Your only way to stand up to a bully in a black school, you gotta fight, nigga. That's the only. So I would be fighting all the time. You know what I'm saying? And I had a rep too. I had a rep. It wasn't until I went from and like a all black school, like to where you could count like the amount of white kids on 3 fingers, to I went to Fayette County High School in Fayette County, Georgia, where it was mixed, white and black. I was so ignorant during orientation. During orientation, when I walked in and I saw all those white kids, I said to my mom, I said, "Damn, Mom, it's snowing in here." And I said that shit loud as fuck. My mom smacked the shit out of me and said, "Boy, I had never been around so many white people in my life as far as school." And so it was one of the best things ever, because I could imagine if I had grown up around just black people, I would have the same mentality they do about race. Because I was able to grow up around white people and see how they operate, yes, there are absolutely positively some redneck, still hanging niggas after when that sun go down, white people. Absolutely. But most of them are not like that. Most of them are not like that. And so the point I'm trying to make here is that after I was able to leave from that school, that whole I never got into another fight again. Like, no, I did. That's a lie, because I ended up going back to a Clayton County school, and then I got into a couple of fights there. But at them other schools, when you're not around like just black people, I never had to fight, because even the kids at Fayette County High School in Fayette County High School, Georgia, they wasn't like that. They wasn't like on this trying to fight all the time type shit. So I just want to.
Yeah, that's a very aggressive word. That's why I hesitated to step forward.
And that's why I would step in and actually say it's more so of like a social contagion.
Yeah.
What got me to transition in the first place was social media. It had a grasp on me that there could be something else out in the world for me during that discovery. And I played it to the fullest 100%. I even passed as a female for a good, what was it, 6 years out of the 7 that I was that I transitioned. And later down the road, I went and paid out of pocket and talked to just a regular therapist, and she made me start questioning my own existence in a way, what I can do as a human being, not just as a male or a female, but what can I contribute to the society. And it made me open up to maybe I was born as a male, and it feels empowering to me.
Yeah, I mean, I was heavy on social media. Like in my transition, Tumblr, that was the place to be for sure. And everyone was talking about their transition from my experience, and everyone was talking about a lot of mental health issues, depression, and all of that. And it was kind of being trendy in that sense. Like when TikTok came out, like that was like a whole nother world. And the biggest thing that I found with that is like they weren't saying a lot of the negative things that were happening in their transition. There was always like a positive outlook on it, like I'm being who I need to be. Like this is great.
The ticket to your happiness.
Yeah, and like so much on social media. Like I made a documentary on my transition, and I really went into depth of like a lot of my depression that I dealt with on that, and I didn't find anyone talking about that.
And I personally didn't think I was trans till I saw earlier trans YouTubers before I was just gender bending man. And for sure, I also feel like comparing yourself on social media to other people that are more beautiful and successful will create dysphoria of some kind.
Reachside says, I grew up in North Attleboro, Massachusetts, and there was only 2 black kids in that area. I ain't never heard of black people. Those might not even been real black people. Those were figments of your imagination. Never heard of black people in Massachusetts. Atraker, why do black people not name their dogs with human names? I can't answer that. I ain't gonna lie to you. I can't answer that.
People,
it will affect your self-image for sure.
Because we see all those beautiful trans women that are all dolled up or had every possible plastic surgery they could ever get. You're gonna feel dysphoria. You're gonna be like, I don't look like that.
And that's in general, though. You know what I mean? Whether you're cis or trans, everyone is
social media has
dealing with
such
that for sure.
It has such a bad impact on mental health.
I wanted to be that muscular dude, and I wanted to do that. So yeah,
it is such a bad, like well-documented bad impact on people's like sense of self and mental health, and so.
But I also really quickly just want to say, like, I don't want people to think that like social media is turning people trans.
Yeah, we agree with that.
All right, can the disagree step forward?
Yeah, okay, so my thoughts on social media and everyone suddenly looking or being trans. I think whoever is leaning towards that or looking towards being trans for answers was always someone that felt that way or felt some type of way about their gender or their identity or the way they present themselves.
No. Stop it. Get some help. There were plenty of kids who, even in my era, grew up doing like little girly stuff, or was a girl and she was doing little boy stuff, but never questioned their identity. It wasn't until now where if you are a 6-year-old boy in high school, and I'm not in high school, in elementary, and you pick up a Barbie doll, your teacher runs up to tell you, oh, you like Barbies? You're a girl on the inside. Like, what?
They're just gonna go that way. I know plenty of femme twinks who went the muscle queen pipeline. It's not a rare
What?
occurrence.
What the fuck? Femme twinks.
And so just experience your life, have fun. Try not to take social media seriously because no one is advertising their failures. It's all fake.
Yeah, but I think it is also important to say that like social media is very, very effective. You know, I mean, I personally scroll on TikTok and I'm like, do I have OCD? Do I have autism? Like all these different things. And like it can suck you in. So it's important to be aware of those things.
I have a question for Samantha, since you have the largest platform here. Do you believe over the years you've inspired people to transition?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I think that I've inspired people to believe that it's okay to be transgender, it's okay to express themselves, and that it's possible to live a happy and successful life.
How do you feel about the fact that some of them are going to regret the body modifications they got and going to have like...
I think that they should go to a doctor that is well-versed in gender care and have the appropriate psychoanalytic analysis done.
Being well-versed doesn't mean they don't have an agenda. We saw that fucker from what is a woman? What was that lady's name? Hold on. Oops, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Let me see if I can.
Creature?
Email?
Creature?
I mean, certainly it's a bit of a Faustian bargain. You know, it's not perfect.
This fucker.
Does anyone ever regret their...
Went straight to the part I want to go to.
Well, we know they do, but how often do people regret their surgeries?
Well, actually, we don't know that they do. There are legitimate detransitioners, and there are people who truly feel that in their journey, they may have made a mistake. Now, fortunately, this is a really, really uncommon phenomenon.
She has an agenda. Resize, I never met a black person who named their dogs names like Bob Marley or something like that. I mean, if I owned a Commodore, I would call it Bob Marley. I don't know, bro. We ignorant like that.
Beforehand. That's not my
And I feel like a lot of folks are going to social media looking for possibility models. They're looking to see if they're okay. I know for me, when I was very young, looking to see if there were other people like me, because for a long time I thought that I was
The only one.
Exactly.
I thought I was the
right.
only one,
And so feeling like that, like suicide was a thing for me.
Me too.
Right. And so when I did see a possibility model, when I did see somebody that looked like me, that put me in a space where I was like, I'm okay.
Well, but see, the problem with that is you're looking for echo chambers. See, just because you can find somebody that feels like you does not mean you are okay. You see that with a lot of, I say that all the time. We live in sort of an echo chamber society to where people are not only seeking out people that agree with them, regardless of whether or not it's wrong or not, but they're also looking to bring more people into their group so they can feel better about themselves. OnlyFans models are like that, or sex workers in general. It's like I'm self-conscious about being in sex work. So how do I make myself feel better about being in sex work? I convince other women to participate in sex work. You see it all the time. That's why girls are always like, oh yeah, girl, start an OnlyFans. Gang members do it the same way. You a gang member, you ain't got nothing going on with your life other than that flag. So you pull other men into your lifestyle because it makes you stronger together. Are either of these lifestyles good lifestyles? Absolutely not. They're not. But you convince other people to be a part of it so that you can feel better about yourself. No. This is why, like Kevin Samuels used to say, single women keep women single. When you're a woman and you got a husband, it's best to get rid of your single friends, because your single friends don't like the fact that you're in a fully functional, happy relationship, and so they'll try to get you to do things that are not conducive to your to your long-term relationship, because that's the echo chamber society that we live in. People don't like whether or not how they feel is good or bad. They don't like walking around feeling like what they're feeling is bad. So they try to find other people that are like them, and they try to find other people who are vulnerable so they can convince them to be like them. It's garbage.
Right.
I will say there's also a difference from like showing people that you can have a positive life and then telling them what to do.
Mhm.
So I think you on your channel are kind of like, hey, look what I was able to do and how this made me feel, versus like, you should do this because I did this.
Right.
So I
And
think,
also, I try my best to be very upfront
right,
about the
because we
issues of
can't help if
transition.
someone's
Exactly.
going to change their mind on something. Like that's inevitable.
Yeah.
We're humans.
And I have to jump
Yeah.
on one more thing with that. Like, if I'm watching her channel and it inspires me to transition, I have been watching white straight men be president for years, and I've not wanted to be president once. So I don't identify with that.
Why the fuck you lying? Why you always lying? Oh my God, stop fucking lying.
That. We're going to talk about brainwashing. Let's talk about where we see things every single day happening a certain way versus someone just living their life authentically.
People with gender
Okay, we're gonna cut it loose. We done went over. So we're gonna go ahead and cut the stream loose. I appreciate you guys. We got 11 people watching on Kick, 5 watching on Rumble. If you are Chopper, go to bed.
Beat that thing down like you started attention, my baby. You had some plans with your man, just tell him to cancel, my baby. Slide to the crib like Dracula's mansion, my baby.